Jackson Podcast.
So a good brother of mine sent me this information. He asked me, have I heard about the Wes Moore story? And I told him, nah, I ain't heard about it. I know I'm just a couple of states away from Maryland, here in the beautiful state of North Carolina, but I didn't know nothing about this individual vetoed the reparations bill after it was already passed. So, you know, the good Dr. Eric Hamilton, the author who I've been doing the review of his book, The Divorced Man, and I suggest y'all go purchase that book, go look at the playlist, and receive the information that he's given also on the channel. So he recommended me do the research, go check out what's been going on. So I hit him back. I said, I'm gonna react to it in real time. So I got a couple of videos up. I got his veto letter from his office, the official veto letter, and I'm going to read that also. But first, we're going to get right into the video and see how it got passed, why he vetoed the bill being passed, and who he is as a person. Let's get to it, man.
Lawmakers voted to create a reparations commission in Maryland, an issue which has been heavily debated. As the bill goes to the governor's desk, Governor Moore isn't making his stance clear. Fox 45's Jessica Babb is showing us where that bill stands.
As the legislative session comes to a close and a bill to create a reparations commission heads to Governor Wes Moore's desk.
We have hundreds of bills.
The question now, will he sign it into law?
I have to go through, and I will go through diligently, all of the different bills that are in front of me.
The bill, which passed both chambers, will create a commission to study and recommend reparations for those impacted by slavery and those who feel the lingering effects of racial discrimination in the state. Reparations, which could include financial payments.
And this is not a conversation about paying people today, but it is a conversation about what are the appropriate remedies, but also what are the nexuses to the historical pieces of legislation or the historical policies that were put in place in the same halls that we serve in today that had that negative impact. We have a duty to remedy those.
What just passed?
You know why reparations is so important and why it's so necessary to me? Because it was bills and laws put in place to hinder, descendants of slavery, African Americans, foundational Black Americans, just Americans in general. There's so many things to identify with. It's crazy to me, but I'm just an American, at the end of the day. But it was so many bills put in place to hinder people. It has never been a bill put in place to help people evolve. And when certain bills was put in place, there wasn't nothing specific that helped Black people. It was to help the totality of people, like DEI. It wasn't specific. It helped the transgenders. It helped the white women. It helped Chinese people, Asian descent people. It's just, when will there be something put in law that will be specific? Let's keep it going.
In Maryland is similar to what's passed in other states like California, Illinois, and New York. All of them are volunteer-based commissions where people aren't paid, including in Maryland, even though those on the commission could still be reimbursed for their expenses. In California, in 2024, $12 million was budgeted for reparations, bringing up the concern of how do we pay for it here in Maryland, especially given the state's financial challenges.
How do we pay for it? I think that's a conversation for another day.
With some Republican lawmakers sounding off.
And I question whether using taxpayer money would ever be appropriate in this context. Even going back to when reparations were paid to survivors of the Holocaust, they went after companies, that were involved, not after taxpayers.
Governor Wes Moore isn't making his position clear, not saying if he plans to sign the bill or let it become law without his signature.
There is no doubt that the impact of slavery still continues to be felt on the people of this state, the northernmost southern state in the entire country. But I also know that I've got hundreds of bills that I still have yet to go through. And when I look through it through a lens of making sure that we are being fiscally disciplined and responsible in this moment and investing in our people, that's how I'll make the decision about which bills get my signature.
In Baltimore, Jessica Babb, Fox 45 News.
What's crazy is he talking about he got hundreds of bills. So that lets you know that he's not prioritizing. That's all we want to be, is prioritize. He's not prioritizing Black people at the end of the day. Now let's get into this other video. Hold up, let me pause it. so I can make it right for y'all. You know, want to make sure it's right. This is what he did as of 5 days ago. Then I'm going to read his veto letter after I play this video. But what I want to say about this is that he's not prioritizing black, man. I did my research. The man is he's Jamaican descent. So, you know, I'm not about to say anything disrespectful to Jamaicans or whatever, but you know, the history in America doesn't pertain to them. So the people that is American, that family members fought through civil rights, came over here through slavery, got red line, the Wilmington massacre, the Red Summer, and all of that. His bloodline isn't attached to that. You know, I did a video about Trump erasing history, doing things and passing laws to erase history. He doing that because he don't want people to have a emotional connection to the past and the history. If you can remove the emotional connection, you can get people to not care anymore. This guy doesn't have the history of America, Americans. You know, we identify as all of these things. My people, foundational Black Americans, African American, American descendants of slavery. Man, at the end of the day, we Americans, dog. Our history is just as important as anybody else's history. Our history shouldn't even be separated. If we really integrated, shouldn't nothing be separated. It should be all inclusion, because our history is almost let me watch my words. Our history is just as significant as anybody else's. Let's get to it.
That's right. And that veto was one of 23 the governor announced late this afternoon. In a letter to the Senate president about his decision, Governor Moore said instead of a study, he wants to see immediate action to address racial disparities. He said given the extensive research already conducted over the past 25 years, Governor Moore believes another study is unnecessary. Instead, he emphasized the need to narrow the racial wealth gap, expand home ownership, and uplift entrepreneurs of color. Moore said he plans to introduce a package of policies in the next legislative session to further those goals. The bill, which proposed creating the Maryland Reparations Commission, proposed various forms of reparations, including financial compensation and tuition waivers. It was supported by the Maryland Black Caucus. In his letter about the veto, Governor Moore said, quote, "While I appreciate the work that went into this legislation, I strongly believe now is not the time for another study. Now is the time for continued action that delivers results for the people we serve." Other bills vetoed today address topics like climate change, a service animal program for the disabled, and less restrictions on veterans to operate certain lottery machines.
You know, I can't wait to read this. I can't wait to read this veto letter, because the word study seems like disrespectful to me. Another study? Nah, dog. I'm pulling it up for y'all. The office of the Governor Wes Moore. So on May the 16th, 2025, the Honorable Bill Ferguson, President of the Senate of Maryland, H-107 State House, Annapolis, Maryland, 21401. Dear President Ferguson. Now, before I get to reading it or whatever, intangibles is so important. Intangibles is so important. I don't know if y'all heard me the first time, so I repeated myself because I had to get in the microphone. Pause. But the guy in the previous video was talking about using tax dollars. You can use tax dollars to fund wars, fund other people wars, do things that is not in the benefit of the people, period. But you can't use tax dollars to help a race that you hindered. You put bills in place and laws in place to be hindered. You know, I don't deal too good in hope, man, and wishes and dreams and thinking that somebody's supposed to do something for me and the government is going to do something for me. I don't expect it. But you know, it's necessary that they you know, fix what has been broken. And it's a lot of things that the government has broken that needs to be fixed outside of just race and reparations. And to think of a government that views a collective of people as lower. They didn't even view us as humans one time. They view us as property, put us to work, the race that is in prison the most per capita, the men, and to expect, just because we law abiding citizens or whatever, a check. I don't see it happening. I want it to happen, but I don't see it happening. Let's read this. In accordance with the Article 2, Section 17 of the Maryland Constitution, I have exercised my constitutional authority to veto SB 587. State Government Maryland Reparations Commission. This legislation creates the Maryland Reparations Commission to study and make recommendations in 2027 relating to appropriate benefits to be offered to African Americans impacted by slavery and historic inequalities. I applaud the legislation's work on this bill, and I thank the Black Caucus for their leadership. Maryland is proud to be a state with the largest Black Caucus in America. Our first Black Attorney General, our first Black Senator, a Black Treasurer, and a Black Speaker of the House. Whew. What does this say for that, though? Black Speaker of the House. We moved in partnership with leaders across the state to uplift Black families and address racial disparities in our community. That is the context in which I've made this difficult decision, because while I appreciate the work that went into this legislation, I strongly believe now is not the time for another study. Now is the time for continued action that delivers results for the people we serve. You know, having all of those Black people in power is interesting, because Black is not a monolith. You may identify as Black, but I'm actually tired of the word, because Black and white is a social construct. It really doesn't exist. Just because you're Black doesn't mean you're looking out for the best interest of the people that you consider yourself as Black. Because Black, that's the inclusion of all people of color. You can be Jamaican, you can be Haitian, you can be Australian, Canadian, from a whole nother country. But once you come to America, we wrap you up into this Black thing, but we removing history. So you're not connected to America. You're not connected to the struggles. You don't have any feelings and emotions or grandparents to tell you the history and all of that. So you really ain't gonna be looking out for the best interest of the people. That state has the most Black people, the biggest Black caucus in the country, and those areas of Baltimore and stuff, are they on the rise? Those areas of DC, it ain't even Chocolate City no more. That's what the people in the streets of DC tell me. So are they really looking out for the best interest of the people in Maryland? Real talk. Let's keep going though. Over the last 25 years, Maryland has launched several commissions and study groups to examine the legacy of slavery in our state, from the Maryland Lynching Truth and Reconciliation Commission to the State Commission, and coordinates the study, commemoration, and impact of the history and legacy of slavery in Maryland. The scholarship on this topic is both vast in scope and robust in scale, and we are grateful for the Marylanders who have contributed their expertise to the viral project of understanding how the legacy of slavery continues to impact Black communities in our state today. So this is the second page. I'm going to read that also. But you know, I've noticed something though. When people talk about reparations, like when these bills is put up, they're like put up by the state. Like I remember when California was dealing with this, and it's a state specific thing. Why isn't it national? Like, will one state do it first, and then all the other states will trickle down and give a percentage? Like, is the money based up? Is it so small? Like, is this issue so small to y'all that it's not a federal national issue? Even though you know what bill has been passed that's been looked at for us in totality, our best interest anyway. It's always some underlining thing to me. that's used to hinder the people. The 60s with integration. They didn't know that they was going in there. Martin Luther King even said it before he passed. He led his people into a burning fire. They didn't know. I excuse that, but you know, other things, DEI, you know, it wasn't specific. Um, Welfare, kept the father at the home, broke up the families and the father, took the father away from the family, and then people grew up single parent homes, and it made people feel empowered as if they was independent, but they was really getting and receiving funds from the government. Let me turn my phone off. Somebody texting me. I gotta read the second part to you. You know, I want to know your thoughts in the comment section so far. Real spill, because this is important. I will always protect and defend the full history of African Americans in our state and country. But in light of many important studies that have taken place on this issue over nearly 3 decades, now is the time to focus on the work itself, narrowing the racial wealth gap, expanding home ownership, uplifting entrepreneurs of color, and closing the foundational disparities that lead to inequality. It has to be a law passed, though, dog. It was a law passed to hinder the people. It has to be a law passed to assist the people. I know we have to focus on ourselves and uplift ourselves and help ourselves and unify within ourselves, but it has to be a law passed. From food insecurities to education, these are the issues I fought for even before I was sworn into office, and they are the priorities of our administration will continue to address with increased focus and intentionality. Our administration record speaks for itself. In our first year, Black-owned businesses received more than 816 million in procurement awards, more than double the amount awarded in the previous year under our predecessors. I issued the largest state pardon in our nation's history, pardoning 175,000 Maryland conviction for cannabis possession, a step that will create more pathways to prosperity for Black Marylanders. Hold up, let me stop for a minute. I want to know if anybody tapping in from Maryland. I'm going to hashtag Maryland, Baltimore, DC. I'm going to put it as if I recorded this episode in DC with the location and everything. Is this true? Because this is assistance. And I want to keep reading. $816 million to help Black-owned businesses and procurement awards, more than double the amount awarded in the previous year under our predecessors. $816 million. Let me say that again. That is assistance. That can help a community. That can build a community. That's enough to build the community. What are people doing with that money? And people need to ask, where did it go? They need to be specific with it to make sure that it's in the best interest of those people in Maryland. 175,000 Maryland convictions for cannabis possession. I call cap, dog. Pardoning 175,000 people is a lot of people, man. In those jails, and you know that system is one of the most profitable systems in America. So let me keep reading though. Our administration increased funding for HBCUs by nearly 60%, investing $1.34 billion towards Maryland's historical Black colleges and universities. And by boosting the numbers of mortgages offered to first-time home buyers, we've nearly helped 1,500 Black Marylanders pursue home ownership for the first time. We made real progress, both to undo bad policies of the past and craft good policies that will lead us towards a brighter future. But we understand our work is far from over. Together, we must take urgent action to address these barriers that have walled off Black families in Maryland from work, wages, and wealth for generations. That's the key. I'm sorry, but that word generations caught my attention, and I got to keep talking for a minute before I finish off the read. Reparations is needed because other ethnicities and other races has set themselves up for generational wealth. Right now is the fight for all people and all family to be able to set ourselves up for generational wealth. I don't even know what the percentage is of black people that leave homes, millions in the bank, businesses to their family members. I don't know those percentages, but I know that it's people that leave debt. Kids have to pay for funerals and be left with debt when their parents die and stuff like that. And it's sad, man. It's sad. So next session, in conclusion, with the Maryland General Assembly, I will be introducing a package of policies I believe will help us accelerate our work in achieving these shared goals. I look forward to partnering with the members of the House and Senate, the bill sponsors, and the Legislative Black Caucus as we build a more equal and just Maryland, one that accepts and uplifts our whole history, helps every Marylander realize their full potential, and leaves no one behind. Wes Moore. What's your thoughts about this, man? Vetoed reparations. Let's talk about it in the comment section below, man. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Peace, love, plenty of abundance. Make sure you go get you some money and I'm gone.
The Trevor Jackson Podcast.